He thinks throwing money at us makes him better than us, my mom said. I cut off every cent that night. 72 hours later, my phone blew up with 118 messages. I never thought I'd be the guy who cuts off his entire family without remorse. But after what happened at my mother's retirement party last month, I don't feel a single ounce of guilt. 10 years of financial support, half my income, my entire savings account, all down the drain because I finally heard what they really thought of me. The worst part? I should have seen it coming years ago. For as long as I can remember, my parents were financial disasters. Dad jumping from one business opportunity to the next, always talking about his entrepreneurial spirit while looking down on people who worked regular jobs. "Only suckers punch a clock," he'd say, while maxing out another credit card to fund his latest scheme. Mom with her shopping addiction, hiding bags in the trunk before bringing them into the house. 3 mortgages on a house that shouldn't have been refinanced even once. Luxury cars they couldn't afford. Always living one step above their means while barely treading water. Meanwhile, I was the anomaly in the family. While my sister Natalie coasted through community college before dropping out to marry her high school boyfriend, I worked my ass off. Scholarships, student loans, night jobs, whatever it took to get through. I was the first one in my family to graduate college, landing an entry-level position at a tech company that most people have heard of now. I lived in a shoebox apartment with 3 roommates while my parents continued buying designer clothes and taking weekend getaways they couldn't afford. It started small, helping with a utility bill in my sophomore year when their electricity was about to be shut off. Then it was car insurance. Then property taxes. Each time the story was the same. Just this once, we'll figure it out next month. We're just in a tight spot. But there was always another tight spot waiting around the corner. After graduation, when I started making real money, the requests grew. The mortgage was late. Dad's business venture had fallen through. Natalie needed help with her wedding. Mom's credit cards were maxed out again. By the time I was 28, I was paying their $2,800 monthly mortgage. I had cleared $78,000 of credit card debt, only to watch them rack up more. When their 10-year-old car finally died, I bought them a brand new Lexus SUV for $65,000 because Mom said she deserved something nice after all these years of struggling. I spent $35,000 on Natalie's dream wedding to a guy who couldn't hold down a job for more than 6 months at a time. I remember sitting at my desk one night, creating a spreadsheet of everything I'd paid for in the last decade. The numbers stared back at me, cold and unforgiving. Monthly mortgage payments, $336,000 credit card debt, first round, $78,000 credit card debt, second round, $42,500 Lexus SUV, $65,000 Natalie's wedding, $35,000 Dad's failed restaurant investment, $15,000 Mom's emergency dental work, $8,700 Natalie's twins' private preschool, $22,000 family vacations I didn't even attend, $18,000 property taxes for 5 years, $26,500 car insurance for 3 vehicles, $22,800 home repairs and renovations, $34,500 monthly allowance for Mom's incidentals, $30,000. Total $734,000. $700 and $34,000, enough for a luxury home in most parts of the country, enough for a complete retirement fund, enough to change someone's life, namely mine. Every milestone in my life got pushed back. The downtown apartment I wanted, too expensive when I was sending them $4,000 a month. The trips to Europe, Asia, South America, maybe next year. The engagement ring for my girlfriend of 3 years. We broke up when she realized my family would always come first financially. "It's like you're married to them," she said on her way out the door. I couldn't even argue. And through it all, the red flags were waving frantically. Mom's casual, "It's just money, Jason," when I expressed concern about another jewelry purchase. Dad's expectation that I would cover the bill whenever we went out to eat, even when he ordered the most expensive wine on the menu, scoffing at cheap options that cost less than $200 a bottle. The same man who'd lecture restaurant staff about a $2 overcharge on the bill. Natalie's constant hints about private schools for my niece and nephew, like my wallet was just an extension of hers. I ignored everything. "They're family," I told myself. "They'd do the same for me." Except they wouldn't, and deep down I knew it. The breaking point came at Mom's retirement party. After 35 years as a school administrator, she was finally stepping down. I paid $15,000 for the venue, catering, and open bar, because of course I did. It was raining, and I'd stepped inside to grab my jacket when I heard my mother's voice drifting from the kitchen. "Jason's always been so easy to convince, works himself to death at that company thinking he's so important." I froze, one hand on the coat rack, blood rushing in my ears. My aunt laughed. "At least he helps you out with money." "Oh, please, he's a fool." Mom's voice had that slightly slurred quality it got after her third glass of wine. "He thinks throwing money at us makes him better than us. It's the least he can do considering how much we sacrificed raising him. Besides, what else is he going to spend it on? No wife, no kids, just work." The group in the kitchen erupted in laughter. Something inside me just snapped. The sound of their laughter, my own mother calling me a fool, echoed in my head as a decade of financial support flashed before my eyes. The vacations I never took, the house I never bought, the retirement account I'd neglected to bolster theirs. I walked into the kitchen. The laughter died immediately. 5 faces stared back at me: Mom, Dad, Natalie, my aunt, and my uncle, frozen in a tableau of guilt. "Jason, honey," Mom started, but I cut her off. "I just want to confirm something I overheard. Do you think I'm a fool for supporting this family?" Mom rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, sweetheart, you're being dramatic. We're just having a little fun." Dad chuckled nervously. "Son, your mother's had a few drinks. You know how she gets." I nodded slowly, turned around, and walked out without another word. Drove home in complete silence. No music, no phone calls, just the sound of my own breathing as something cold and resolute settled into my chest. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out every financial record I had, bank statements, payment confirmations, transfer receipts, and laid them across my living room floor like a paper monument to my own stupidity. $734,000, money that had cost me relationships, opportunities, and peace of mind. By morning, I had a plan. First, I canceled every automatic payment: the mortgage, the utilities, the car insurance, the cell phone family plan I paid for, every single recurring charge that had been bleeding my account dry for years. Next, I called the mortgage company and informed them I would no longer be making payments on a house that wasn't in my name. I emailed the family accountant, who I also paid for, and revoked my authorization for any shared accounts. I removed myself as an authorized user on their credit cards, which I had added myself to years ago when they needed help rebuilding their credit. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep for the first time in years without worrying about anyone else's financial problems. 72 hours later, I turned my phone back on to 47 missed calls, 118 text messages, and 23 voicemails. I ignored all of them and sent a single email to every member of my immediate family. As of today, I am terminating all financial support. I will not discuss this decision or reconsider. Please respect my decision and do not contact me. The responses were exactly what I expected. "Mom, stop being childish. You'll get over this by Monday." Dad, "Son, you're overreacting. Your mother didn't mean anything by it." Natalie, "You can't just cut us off. What about Mom and Dad's bills? What about the kids' tuition?" I didn't respond to any of them. As the days passed, the messages evolved from dismissive to desperate to manipulative. Mom started with, "I raised you better than this before moving to your father, and I gave up everything for you." When that didn't work, the health concerns started. Headaches, chest pains, insomnia, all supposedly brought on by my cruel abandonment. "If anything happens to me, it's on your conscience," she texted on day 12. Dad's approach was different. He vacillated between stern lectures about family duty and pathetic attempts to convince me they would change. "We'll be more appreciative," he promised in one voicemail. "We'll set up a budget," he said in another, never once acknowledging what they had done or how they had used me. Natalie was the most direct. "You're punishing my children for something they didn't do," she wrote in a rambling email. "They won't be able to stay in their school. They'll lose their friends. They're just kids, Jason." I changed my phone number, moved to a new apartment, set up email filters to automatically archive anything from them, started seeing a therapist to work through the guilt, anger, and grief. The first real consequences hit about 30 days in. The mortgage payment was missed. Late fees accumulated. The car payment went overdue. Utilities sent shut-off warnings. Credit scores started to plummet, and with each new development, the emotional manipulation intensified. My mother showed up at my office, tears streaming down her face, clutching her chest. "I can't believe my own son would do this to me," she wailed in the lobby, loud enough for everyone to hear. Security escorted her out while she sobbed about how she'd given me life, and this was how I repaid her. Dad sent a handwritten letter about how he'd always been proud of me, a blatant lie, as he'd never said anything of the sort, and how he knew I was just going through something. He included some of my childhood drawings, as if that would magically make me forget decades of financial abuse. Natalie's husband Tom called, surprisingly the most reasonable of the bunch. "Look, I get it," he said. "They've been using you, but Natalie's freaking out about the kids, and I wondered if maybe you would consider helping just with their tuition. They really love that school." I hung up on him. Mom's birthday came and went, then Thanksgiving, then Christmas. I spent the holidays alone, alternating between relief at not having to bankroll another extravagant family gathering and a hollow sadness for the family I thought I had. 2 months in, my cousin Ryan, the only family member I still spoke to, warned me they were planning something bigger. "They're getting desperate," he said. "The bank's threatening foreclosure, and they've run out of other relatives to hit up for loans." "What are they planning?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "They think if you lose your job, you'll have no choice but to come crawling back. They're talking about contacting your work, making stuff up to get you fired." My blood ran cold. "They wouldn't. Jason, they're drowning. Drowning people don't care who they pull down with them." Sure enough, anonymous emails started arriving in my boss's inbox, claiming I had substance abuse issues, that I was embezzling company funds, that I was harassing female colleagues. Mom and Dad showed up at the office lobby one afternoon, causing such a scene that security had to escort them out. Natalie started reaching out to clients I worked with directly, feeding them elaborate stories about my mental breakdown. I met with HR immediately, documented everything, and had our legal team send a cease and desist letter. The attempt stopped, but the damage to our relationship was irreversible, not that there was much left to salvage. Around the 90-day mark, the repossession company came for the Lexus. I know because Ryan texted me a photo of the empty driveway with the caption, "It's getting real now." The bank sent a second warning about the mortgage. Dad, at 68, took a job as a night stalker at a grocery store, the same chain he used to mock as where the failures work. The man who once said retail workers were too stupid to get real jobs was now wearing a blue vest and arranging cans on shelves for minimum wage. Mom started selling her jewelry, the same pieces I had paid off when I cleared their credit card debt. Designer handbags appeared on local Facebook selling groups. The luxury furniture they'd bought while I was living with roommates to save money suddenly became priced to sell. Natalie's marriage imploded. Tom had apparently been silently seething about her financial dependence on me for years. Once that support vanished and she started pressuring him to make up the difference, he reached his breaking point. He moved out, filed for joint custody of the kids, and according to Ryan, seemed happier than he had in years. Through it all, I remained firm in my decision, even as mutual friends reached out to check on me with thinly veiled messages from my family. Even as I scrolled past a fraudulent GoFundMe campaign claiming my elderly parents had been abandoned by their ungrateful son. I reported it, and the platform took it down within hours. 3 months into my self-imposed exile, I took my first real vacation in a decade. 2 weeks in Japan, something I'd been dreaming about since college. I posted no pictures, told no one except my boss where I was going, and for the first time in memory, I truly relaxed. No emergency calls about overdue bills. No last-minute wire transfers to cover unexplained expenses. Just me, exploring a new country, answering to no one. When I returned, I put a down payment on a modest house. Nothing flashy, but mine. All mine. No one else's name on the mortgage, no one else's financial irresponsibility threatening to take it away. Just 4 walls and a roof that represented the first thing I had done solely for myself in years. 6 months after the retirement party, Ryan called to tell me Mom was in the hospital. Stress-induced hypertension, he said. Dad was a mess, suddenly looking every bit of his 68 years and then some. The house was gone, lost to foreclosure. They were staying with a distant cousin in a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town, the bad side they used to warn me to avoid. Dad was working double shifts at the grocery store, coming home with swollen feet and a broken spirit. Mom was on multiple medications they could barely afford, even with Medicare. Natalie had moved in with them, children in tow, sharing a bedroom with the twins while her divorce processed. The private school was long gone. The kids now attended the local public school that Mom used to call dangerous whenever they drove past it. The irony was almost too perfect. "They want you to know Mom's asking for you," Ryan said, his voice careful, neutral. "She says she's sorry." I felt a twinge of something, not quite guilt, not quite sadness, but something human nonetheless. I sent a message through Ryan. "I've heard Mom is sick. Here's information for the county health services that provide assistance to low-income seniors. I wish her well, but my support ended the day I heard the truth about how you all see me." I added, "I've paid enough financially and emotionally for a lifetime. This chapter is closed." That was 2 weeks ago. My phone hasn't rung with unknown numbers since. No more emails have slipped through my filters. No more surprise visits or public ambushes. Just silence which feels suspiciously like freedom. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, if cutting them off completely was too harsh. But then I remember my mother's voice, wine-slick and casual. "He's a fool." I remember a decade of thankless support. I remember the life I put on hold to prop up theirs. I remember the spreadsheet, $734,000. Years of my life converted to a number that meant nothing to them but everything to me. The therapist says I'm making progress, that recognizing financial abuse is the first step to healing from it, that some family dynamics can't and shouldn't be saved. She tells me it's normal to mourn the relationship I thought I had while accepting the reality of the one I actually had. Yesterday, I got a promotion at work, the one I would have received 2 years ago if I hadn't been constantly distracted by family emergencies. Next month, I'm going on a date with someone I met at a coffee shop, the first date I've been on since my ex left. This weekend, I'm building a fire pit in the backyard of my new house, a house that exists because I finally chose myself. I used to think family meant sacrifice at any cost, that love meant giving until there was nothing left, that my worth was tied to what I could provide. Now I know better. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away. It took me 10 years and over $700,000 to learn that lesson, but I finally feel free. And that's worth more than all the money in the world.